The country of Iran is now resorting to public executions in efforts to crush unrest and silence protesters. The Associated Press reports a prisoner was publicly hanged from a construction crane just last week. The man was a protester accused of killing two members of Iran's paramilitary force last month. Protests initially erupted in Iran earlier this fall after the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, who was captured and killed by the country's morality police for improperly wearing her hijab. And joining us tonight with an update is Clare Lopez, founder and president of Lopez Liberty. Clare, great to see you as always. Let's talk about these public executions. The death penalty is really hardly a new thing in Iran, but there does seem to be an uptick in these executions, and now they are being performed in a very public fashion. What does this signal to you?
The regime is in trouble. It knows it's in trouble. It is flailing, and they know at the top levels of the Iranian regime that they are at risk of being ousted by the people who are outraged at the way they're being treated. And so these public executions, gruesome hangings in which the accused is lifted slowly by a crane and left to dangle. It's horrific, it's barbaric, and it's intended to strike fear into the Iranian people in an attempt to put down these protests, which, by the way, they do not call protests. It's a revolution, inkilab, not tazahirat, that have been going on now more than 3 months.
And over the weekend, Iranian actress Taraneh Al-Dosti was arrested for expressing solidarity with another man who was also recently executed. Claire, as these larger names and louder voices continue to speak out, how do you think the regime will respond? And do you think it will start to loosen its hold?
No, I don't think it'll start to loosen its hold. As I said, they realize they're in trouble. I think they're going to try more and more drastic and brutal measures to try to put down the uprising from the people, which is in every single province across the entire country, spanning all of the ethnic groups in Iran who claim not to be Baluchis or Kurds or Azeris, but Iranians against this brutal and oppressive regime. It's going to take some time. This is not going to happen overnight. But I think the momentum is with the people. We know that because the regime just recently, in November, about a month ago, sent a delegation to Venezuela looking for some kind of an arrangement should they need to flee the country, and Venezuela might be a place they thought to go.
Claire, in a separate report, the New York Times is reporting the regime uses rape to enforce a woman's modesty. And there are also reports of the rape of female protesters held in detention. What more do you know about this? I mean, absolutely horrific reports if true.
Absolutely horrific, absolutely true. The regime has long used rape within its prisons of male and female prisoners to instill terror and inflict punishment on those inside of its prisons. This has been going on since the regime took power in 1979. I have spoken with many women, many Iranian women, who have managed to get out of those prisons and out of Iran. And they tell me that these kinds of abuses, human rights abuses that include many kinds of torture, but again, rape of women and men inside the prisons is commonplace. This is what they do.
And just last week, as you know, the UN removed Iran's seat from the Commission on the Status of Women. A step in the right direction, but beyond that, Claire, what has been the response from the international community, including the United States, and what do you think needs to be done?
You know, I think it's been a very disappointing response, even from the perspective of issuing statements, aside from people within our leadership in the United States, in Congress, for example, and former United States officials who have spoken up in defense of the Iranian people. On the part of the Biden administration itself, there's just been silence. It's reprehensible, and they should be using the leadership positions of the administration to stand for the Iranian people. But because this administration, the Biden administration, is still somehow, I guess, hoping that they can restart the moribund nuclear talks on the Iranian nuclear weapons program, they don't want to upset the mullahs. And so they say nothing about the abuses, the horrific abuses, or the courage and the bravery of the Iranian people standing now for their liberty in the streets all over Iran.
And Claire, so much more we can talk about. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you, as always, for your insights. We appreciate it.